everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. Today is Friday, and I decided to share another unsolved mystery that was recently solved. So, for those of you who have been asking for this series and to share some of those cases that you may not know that have been solved after watching them on Unsolved Mysteries on TV, or maybe heard the story on a true crime channel. Well, there's quite a few of those popular cases that have been solved, and so I've been trying to little by little add them to a playlist so we can find some comfort in knowing that even some of the coldest cases can be solved, even if it takes many years to get to that point. However, if you're new around here, welcome. If you enjoy true crime and ASMR mixed, please take the time to leave a comment down below and rate this video so that way we can share it with more people that are into true crime delivered in an ASMR style. I have a Patreon page if you want to support my channel. You can get 4 extra videos a month for $5. And if you want to support the channel and watch my videos ad-free, please consider taking a membership. And that way you can enjoy the same videos ad-free. Now, let's talk about the Killer Falls. It's gonna take us all the way down to San Diego. The kind of neighborhood in particular that had kind of this sense of community, and people like to stay there. Angela Kleinsorge and her husband Paul had settled in Morena in the 1940s. They were immigrants that came from Germany. They started their own business, Loma Nursery, and they bought this beautiful single-story home at the corner of Gaines and Colusa Streets. This is located just within a walking distance of the University of San Diego. They had a boy and a girl. And here Angela continued to live after Paul's death. At 84 years old, she was an elegant, charming senior who loved her garden and loved to walk around the area. Haiti, which is Angela's daughter. I'm not sure it's Haiti or Haiti. Let's call her Haiti just in case, since they're German. So Angela's daughter, Haiti, had a particular close bond with her mom. They talked every day on the phone, and she'd visit very frequently. Now on Saturday, days, Edie would go to her mom's and pick her up, and they would go shopping. So on the morning of Saturday, February 29th, 1992, Edie was concerned. She would typically call her mom before leaving the house to let her know that she was on her way to pick her up. But that day she called her 3 times and she never answered. Her mom had, recently had hip surgery, and she was scared that maybe she fell or something. So she rushed to her mom's house and realized that the porch light was still on and the blinds still drawn. Angela had always been an early riser, so she knew something was really wrong. She hurried and got to the house, opened the door, with really shaking. I can't even imagine how she must have felt. And started calling her mother's name, but nothing. With her heart pumping in her chest, well, thumping really in her chest, she walked down the hall towards the bedroom. She was so scared what she was going to find, but what she imagined was not even close of what she really found. She left the house screaming, and really you could tell that she was in a lot of pain and shock. A neighbor called the police, and they were there in minutes. They entered the property to find the terrible sight that had Kitty traumatized. Her mom Angela was laying on the floor of the master bedroom in her nightgown. The upper part of her body had all dry blood. She was stabbed multiple times in the neck, and her throat had been slashed. She had some defensive wounds to her hands and arms, so she did try to fight it off. The autopsy revealed that stabbing, I guess. She was also raped during the attack. You guys have to understand that as I go through this again, it just kind of plays a horrible movie in my head, and I get tongue twist. It was really traumatizing for the entire neighborhood. Who would do this to an 84-year-old woman? Was this a burglary and she caught them? Is this gonna happen again somewhere else? Was he from the neighborhood and pretending to be a good person? The killer was never caught. They worked the case hard, but the leads really left them with no suspects. The killer was either super smart or super lucky, or maybe even both. This was one of the haunting cases for the local police department. For Detective Holly Irwin, it was Angela's murder. She worked the original, case. But since then, she was forced to take a medical retirement because of her battle with cancer. But after it was in remission, she came back. She really was the perfect fit for the cold case team. In December of 2016, she got the news that she was so waiting to hear. They were going to look again into Angela's case. At this point, 25 years had passed since the night that Angela was murdered, and technology had not stood still in that time. They had DNA profiling, and it was available since the early 90s, but it wasn't as effective as it was in 2016. Now, a profile could be extracted from severely degraded material, and they had databases, codes. They had millions. Oh, my leg fell asleep. They had millions of names attached to this database with DNA to compare to. However, there was a new kid on the block, which is familial DNA. That made really the difference in this particular case. Now, for those of you who don't know, familial DNA testing is very simple. The perpetrator might have been smart about not having his profile in the database himself, but he might have a close relative who does. So that's how they match them. That helps maybe not find the specific person, but to narrow their suspect pool considerably. Then these individuals would be asked to submit a sample to be eliminated or confirmed as a suspect. And in this case, they had a hit, a familial link to a convicted felon who had since died. This man had two siblings, one living and one dead. The living brother was quickly tracked down, tested, and clear of the murder. But the remaining brother, Jeffrey Falls, who had been killed in a motorcycle accident in San Diego County back in 2006. At that time, they realized that the Falls family had lived directly across the street from Angela. At the time that she was murdered, of course. Now, finding a sample of DNA wasn't too difficult. The coroner had taken tissue samples at the time of his accident and now handed these over for testing. It was a match. Angela, where Angela's killer had been identified at last. Jeffrey Falls had been 42 years old on the day that he died, which would have made him 17 years old that night when he crept through his secret to the grave, but he didn't. Jeffrey Falls had been exposed for the monster that he really was. Well, some people say that this is the typical case of he got away with murder. And Angela's family was on that side. In this press conference or news conference, Yeti, or Hetty, Angela's daughter, told the assembled media that she had wondered for years if the killer thought he'd gotten away with murdering her mother, or if he even gave a thought to what he'd done. Now she no longer had to think about these painful thoughts. And she described this as bitter, sweet victory. This is one of those cases that really haunts me to the point of really questioning a lot of things, like how is this even possible? How can somebody get away with it, move on with their lives, and then never be caught alive? Apparently this guy stayed out of trouble, and he was really trying to stay away from the police as much as he could. But I think that in the end it leaves us with more questions of why would he do that? Why would he go into this elderly person's home and do all these things to somebody that really... Are we being serious right now? Rape an 84-year-old woman and kill her, like stab her in the neck, slit their throats. I mean, please stop me whenever you feel like it's getting creepy. I don't have the answer. Why would a 17-year-old kid do this? It's kind of crippling to know that he took that secret to his grave. And even though we know he did it, we don't know what possessed a 17-year-old guy to do this to this lady. Now, I must be honest, I was going to do a little bit more research about this guy and what they found out. There's gonna be background noises. I said in the previous video, everyone is working outside their yard. And that one is my husband, who's now working. The machinery stopped, but now he's working outside. So anyways, I was going to look into this guy a little bit more because I thought this is kind of okay, guy, was there something wrong with him? Did he have a mental illness? Was he one of those guys that look like crap and, maybe don't take care of themselves and feel ugly and they do things? I'm not saying that if you let yourself go, you're gonna look ugly. I'm just saying that, based on other cases that I've covered, there are some, different scenarios for a young person to do this. If you remember the case of the nun, I'm gonna try to remember to link it down below. But if not, you can look it up as the nun something on my channel. Not really. I can't really come up with an answer of why a 17-year-old kid would do this. It really bothers me to think that for still young people out there with this incredibly crazy state of mind that they would do this to an elderly person. It's just too much for my brain to wrap around. And even though this is one of a shorter case, because even though it was investigated and it was a cold case, because of the year that it happened and how technology worked back then, we don't have all the information, or we don't have all the details that we may get for other cases that were either solved at the time that it happened, or something that it was more recent and it's looked into different eyes, I guess, or just a devastating case. I'm glad it's solved, but I feel the pain of the daughter is like bittersweet. This guy, in fact, got away with it. And I think that what pisses me off the most. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. For those of you that are part of Patreon, please check your feed at 6 p.m. tomorrow. There will be a new case there for the weekend. Thank you so much for the support. And if you're still awake and you forgot to give it a thumbs up, please do right now. Leave a comment down below. I have a snoring puppy by me. Can you hear her? It's okay. It's okay. Apparently she's having a nightmare. I'm gonna wake her up. Goodness gracious, can she have a nice dream where she's eating a bone or something? She's always having nightmares. Alright. Talk to you guys next time.